It's time for the Film Crickets with Jay Fortier and Chris Martineau. Wrapping up a month-long review of horror films, Jay, Chris, and their special guests, co-host from the podcast Game for a Movie, Jill Silverberg, review the 1999 American supernatural horror film, The Blair Witch Project. Does it stand the test of time? Let's find out. Your Film Crickets are on now.
All right. Hey, friends. My name is Jay Fortier. I'm along with my good friend,
Chris Martineau.
Hey, what's going on, buddy?
How's it going on, Mr. J?
Hey, having fun. And right now, today we're going to be doing the Blair Witch Project, and we have a special guest, and she is from the Game for a Movie podcast, and her name is Jill Silverberg. Do you prefer Jill or
Hello.
Jillian?
You know, technically it's Jillian, but I went through that rebellious phase we all go through where I'm like, I'm going to change my name. Just chop off the last part of it. And most of my friends after I turned 18 call me Jill, but professionally it is Jillian.
Oh, okay.
That is what all of my librarian things say. So whatever you want to call me.
right.
I'll even go by Hey You.
All right. You got it, Sarah.
No, listen, welcome. And if you want, tell people about your podcast that you guys do.
Yeah, so as was said, I am part of the podcast Game for a Movie, and we are a movie-based podcast. We're a bunch of me and some friends. We just talk about movies. Usually there's a bad movie in there. We tend to compete to see who is the loser, and whoever that poor victim is has to be subjected to watching a film that I think has under 4-star rating on IMDb, and then we get to hear all about the badness. And it's a good time. We all like talking about film, and sometimes we move into TV and other examples of pop culture. But yeah, we just all like to talk, so it works out.
Nice. How long has it been going on?
So it's been going on for more than at least 2 years. I joined in about 2020 because I started seeing one of the other hosts. So I kind of slipped my way in there.
Got it.
Nice.
Understood. So do we excuse me, do we glee in bad movies, or is it painful to watch bad movies? Is it fun to watch bad movies? What's your take on that? Little details, please.
So I think at least for me, it's fun to watch bad movies. There's very few genuinely bad movies where you walk out of it and being like, that was just agony. Mm-hmm. I think the only films that are coming to mind right now are, like, most recently I watched Speed 2,
oh, yes.
The one on the boat. That was very, very little redeeming qualities to that. Not even that it was fun. But for the most part, I think a bad movie has the capacity to be great as long as it checks off some boxes. Sure. You know, is it intentionally campy? Yeah. Even better if the actors are actually trying really hard and it all kind of looks ridiculous and crappy around them. But if it's just low budget, low acting skills, low effort, then it's a chore.
I will follow that with two things. I think any movie, even if it's bad, the people that are making it know it's bad. But I also think that there is a sincerity that you can kind of, like, they're all trying their balls off, even though this is the best we got. And I think that's fun to watch on the screen, like someone just, like, the earnestness of trying to make that happen. And I will say, the only movie that was so bad I walked out was Highlander 2. So another sequel, Highlander 2, is so insultingly stupid. I was that close to walking out.
We have a future movie
I've never
to
actually
watch.
seen Highlander, and I really want to.
That'll be one for you. Yeah, for the
yeah. Highlander 1's great. Highlander 2 is oh boy. All right. So as is usual, this episode is sponsored by Polar Seltzer. Jay and I keep blasting through Polar. All right.
Actually, I did my undergrad in Worcester, Mass, which is where I think Polar originated out of.
Yep.
At least they better have, because there was always a giant inflatable polar bear greeting me and my family when they would drop me off each semester.
No, it's just a really cute city. No, really, they're just like inflatable bears.
And also,
yeah, they do.
They named their recent ballpark Polar Park.
Right.
So,
oh, did they?
Yeah.
The Woo Sox.
So,
all right. So,
yeah.
You want to get into Blair Witch there, Jay?
Sure.
All right. So can I start with my question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right. So look. So we're doing Blair Witch Project this week, And it came out in 1999, so we're just on the cusp of it. I'm going to do the IMDb breakdown in a moment, but I'm going to ask Jillian, when was previous to the current watching, when was the last time you saw this movie, if ever? Never. So this is the first time. So all of the other knockoff movies that obviously were inspired by this film, you never saw the genesis, like where this came from. Okay.
No, but I have seen, in that vein of the knockoffs, I've seen the first two Paranormal Activities.
Which are great.
Which were, I remember the second one better than the first one, but yeah, they are both entertaining.
Absolutely.
And then the next successor that I've seen is Unfriended.
Okay, I never saw Unfriended.
Which was the one, basically the horror movie through Skype.
Okay. Right. Oh, there's one. Did you ever see, there's a low budget one on Shudder, and it was during quarantine, and they made a horror movie with the Zoom people, and they did like a Ouija board session, and it's actually terrifying.
I haven't seen it per se, but I know what you're talking about.
I recommend it once, because after that, it's gone. Just like this movie. Yeah. Well, after you see it once, it's kind of, the magic is gone. But it's actually legit scary. Okay, so, Jay, your history with The Blair Witch.
All right, so I saw it, besides the other day, I saw it probably early, I don't know, the last 10 years or so. Okay. The first time I ever saw it, though, was around when it came out. I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it on video, but I was already hip to what the story was, like that it was not, because there's a lot of people, which we'll get into, they sold it as if it was actually like a real story type of thing. So it was like freaking out, type of thing. So it was like, and by the way, early stages of internet. So not everybody can be sleuths and figure everything out. So it was like a perfect storm that could have happened for this. And, it knocked Halloween off the pedestal as far as most successful independent horror film, because it was originally, I think the budget, even though Wikipedia says 300,000, I think they said the budget was like 80 or like 30 something thousand.
60,000 was the number I kept seeing. Yep. And it's funny to think of Halloween being like a indie movie, the original.
Oh, totally.
Way back when.
So it's a very profitable film.
So I assume the 300,000 number is probably the extra that they spent later to do all those missing posters and things like that. Because there was a big hype train leading up to the movie. So,
right. Okay. So where I'm at is I did get wrapped up in the hype. I knew that it wasn't like a real thing. People were trying to tell us, the MTV generation was trying to tell us it was a real lost footage. If so, that would be called a snuff film. And they typically don't,
That just makes me think of the movie No Vacancy.
Right. So it'd be kind of a snuff film. So I saw this movie in the theater in 1999 by myself because I think my wife at the time worked like second shift and we never really got to the movies much. So I'm like, I'm going to see this movie. So I went to go see the movie by myself. And I remember being scared in the movie because I still was. I don't believe it, but people are still saying that some of it might be real. And I bought into the hype. Like I was into the magic at the moment, right? And in a darkened theater watching this shaky cam happen, it was something completely new. It's the opposite of Panaglide, right? So Halloween was big on Panaglide, but this thing is like all shaky cam, which was kind of neat to watch. So I got wrapped up in it. I really, really liked it. And then after that, the buzz was... it was going to come out on videotape on Halloween. I remember that specifically. I reserved my copy because I had to see this movie again. And then I watched it again and then never watched it after that until I bought the video on Halloween. And then that was it. And it sat and it collected dust and I don't know where it is now. And then I rented it, obviously, to watch it again. So that's my history with The Blair Witch. I do remember liking it at the time. I was in. Because it was something that I don't think anything we can all agree at the time. I don't think is anything anybody had seen. Right. So you're either going to like it or you're not going to like it. So, all right. So, are you ready for the one sentence run? I haven't even read it. So now's the time in the program where we look at the one sentence rundown from IMDb, where you try to encapsulate all the minutia in a movie in like 10 to 12 words. So here we go. The Blair Witch Project, rated R. Running time, 1 hour and 21 minutes. Released in 1999. The synopsis is, 3 film students vanish after traveling into a Maryland forest to film a documentary on the local Blair Witch legend, leaving only their footage behind, period.
Nailed
the
it.
stars of this... Yeah, I know, right? That's pretty much it. That's the whole deal. It is... it stars Heather Donahue, Michael C. Williams, Joshua Leonard, and I don't need to go past that because those are the only people in the story, except for some locals that they interviewed on the streets of Maryland, and maybe one actor. The fact that this movie has a director really should have kind of put the nail in the coffin, the fact this isn't actually a found footage film. Directed by Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez. I believe it's probably, I don't know if this is like a film student thing. But there you have it. That is the storyline.
I don't know if they just graduated or but they were just basically still like, fresh out of the gate. Mm-hmm. So they had
right.
Yeah, I read that they had thought of the idea in film school. That's like where it started.
And I guess
right.
they did
like
a short. And somebody liked it and whatever, and it got a little hype. So that's where they were able to do the I don't know, crowdfunding or however to make the real thing.
Well, anytime, back in the day in the 90s, or even before that, if you had an independent film, you were going to people and begging for money.
Right.
So you were going to like rich dentists who wanted a cut of the profits or whatever the case may be, or somebody, a dad's friend who had $6,000 and you promised them 2% on the take on the movie. Right. So
that dad would have made a lot of money back.
Right. Exactly. So that's how they did it. And it was really like kind of guerrilla filmmaking. And I did read that these 3 stars who I don't believe did much since. I could look it up, but I don't believe it's I don't think there's a lot of stuff that any of them did. I do recall reading that there was an ad in Variety for actors, and they were just basically probably just out of acting school, and they picked up the gig. And the rest is history. And what was really fun about this is that the MTV people really kind of dug on this. They kept it a secret. So without internet. So this whole movie is kind of predicated on the idea of something we're so used to now. Nobody gets lost now. Nobody gets lost. Nobody is not in contact with somebody, right? Even if your phone is like at 1%, you can still send a text message. Hey, I'm in the middle of the forest. So this movie is before all of that, and it gives it this isolating feeling, which I think holds on. Like when you first watch the movie, there's a reason I don't go camping. Like camping sucks. So I don't know where you guys sit on camping. Why would I drive 3 hours out of the way to inconvenience myself on purpose? Like I've got all of this stuff here. Like why am I going to go into the woods? Oh no, I got a fridge, but let me take a cooler and put it with ice to keep the stuff I usually have in my fridge when I got a fridge. Oh, let me get a camping shower. Tell you what, I have a shower. It's like here with running water.
Dude,
stuff. Like, why? Why?
I got a story. Just to give you another layer on that story. My wife and I, when we were dating years ago, she was like, oh, I got this in New Hampshire. She was like, this place, it's got a teepee, right? And apparently, in the middle of the teepee, you can actually like light a fire, and like they were like, but use this special wood that we have over here. Don't use the regular one. I was like, sure, that sounds cool, whatever. So we're trying that out. It's night 1. They're like, this is kind of cool, and they're like, these flaps, they got sticks, and you got to like fold them over if it rains, but we're not expecting any rain tonight. So we light the fire, literally. Within minutes. My eyes! Like, even with the flap open, the flap's wide open, right? For some reason, it's finding us. The only place that we weren't burning our eyes out was flat on the ground. So it was like, well, we might as well just go to sleep. Because because all we could do is lie there.
That's nice.
Right? Then, in the middle of the night, I wake up, and I go, Wendy, wake up, it's raining. She goes, I know, I just went to sleep. Right? So it's coming in the flap.
Nice.
So we're out in the pitch darkness. The pitch darkness trying to shut these flaps. One of the sticks comes out of the flap. So we couldn't.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So like, hey. So the next day we went to the office and we were like, hey, you know those little campers that you got? Can we upgrade to one of those? Next thing you know, the next day we got a heater, we got a stove. We're like, now this is camping.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's like, yeah. So I'm in the same category. Like I was like, screw that, man. Like we picked out quickly that we weren't good.
The last time I went camping was a serious hiking trip on a spring break my junior year in Texas. And it was all pretty smooth sailing until the very last night where me and my friend were camping along the side of the Colorado River. And in the middle of the night, like part of the tent gave way and it started to rain. And I woke up and I'm like, Therese, did you spill your water bottle? And she's like, no. And I'm like, there's water in here. No, you're making it up. Let's go back to sleep. So I did. And then we woke up and both of our sleeping bags were drenched.
Nice.
And it was like 48, 50 degrees outside. I was just like, camping fucking sucks.
Yeah, it's terrible.
We're done. Let's go to a hotel. Right. So we bailed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But that was the last time I seriously camped. So when the kids were kids, I'm older than them now, which is terrifying to think. When the 20-somethings were in the woods and like it was just getting worse and worse, I'm like, this is everything I hate about camping.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great
Absolutely.
PSA, don't go camping.
Yeah, seriously. So we'll get into like how this movie starts, but I think the excuse me, the emphasis of the movie is that feeling. Like there's nothing going on in the movie. It's just all about feeling something, right? Discomfort, right? And so when you're camping and you got three people that already are questioning why they're even in the woods in the first place, and then shit starts to go down, we now get kind of a microscope into how people actually treat one another in situations. And I think if anything, this movie captures that really well, is that how quickly we will denigrate, we'll start screaming at each other, which is all justified. Do you either of you disagree with the fact that when they start getting lost and they start getting panicked, that no one here is going to keep a cool head?
No.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Right? Like where everyone's going to start screaming at each other. And what's interesting about this movie is they can start screaming at each other, but they still have to sleep in the same tent. So at some point, you have to stop screaming at each other. You got to figure out a way that you can just look at each other and not want to punch each other in the face because they realize that they're all in the same. This sense of elevated danger gets larger and larger. It's small at first, and then they realize that things are going to go south quick. So anyway, so let's before we get into the camping, because that's the whole movie, we have the pushy film student director who's making a movie about the documentary of the urban legend of the Blair Witch. And what's great about this movie is that it starts there's a lot of things that are good. But it starts out with legit people on the street and just walking around the town and saying, hey, tell me what you know about the Blair Witch. And they're all like legit. They're not actors. There's just people, from what I understand, they're just people that they ask on the street. And just, hey, tell me what you know about the Blair Witch, which I like a lot because every town has a legend, and it's probably bullshit, but it doesn't matter because if enough people believe in a legend, it's real. You know what I mean? Like Ebenezer Scrooge is real.
I thought they, you know
what I mean?
I thought the people who were saying
shit
shit were like scripted type people.
I read that they were not. I think the crazy lady in the double wide.
That's who I was wondering.
Yeah,
if she was an actor.
I think she's an actor, but I think the lady talking about the Blair Witch with the kid like holding her face.
I always thought that was
and
like just,
the guy in the
because I didn't think the Blair Witch was the real thing.
The guy in the no, I think it's the actual legend.
Oh, okay.
You'll probably if people are listening, they'll get emails. But I think the lady in the double wide is an actor. The guy that in the flannel that gives all the detailed exposition is probably also an actor. But I believe that there are other people in there that were just like people off the street because it's interesting to do. Like you can go into a bar and say, "Hey, what's really cool? So tell me about the legends in this town,"
Blair,
and you'll get a bunch of information.
The town was never ever called Blair. It was always this other one.
Oh,
whatever town that is.
All right.
No,
well,
I'm saying,
yeah. All right.
Burkittsville or something like that, or
so
Burkittsville.
Right. So it all starts as all things do with the best of intentions, right? They're making a movie. The sound guy has got all of his equipment, and he's got to get that stuff back by whatever amount of time. And it's a tell when they say we have enough. What do you say? We have enough battery to light a city. What word?
Yeah, light a city. I wonder if they got it from like The Wiz or Circuit City. I was kind of disappointed they never revealed where they got it from.
I know.
It's like I have like a list of things where like if it pops up in a movie, I'll like kind of verbally shout it or make a note being like hashtag they survive this or like hashtag old technology.
Yep.
So I was really bummed when they didn't mention where they rented the equipment. So my headcanon is they got it at The Wiz.
The Wiz. They got it at The Wiz.
Nobody beats The Wiz.
Nobody does. It's true. So what's interesting is they have all these battery packs, and that's a tell right there. Like nobody's going to be in the woods for 4 days, have shit get rained on, and have power the entire time. Like that's just not going to happen. So again, if you're in the movie, you don't care about that. But the fact that they have to put that in, it's almost like a liar shouldn't give too much information. Just go with it. Don't even mention the batteries because it's a tell that this is all fake. So anyway, the interesting part about what I think, and I'll ask you guys, is at the beginning of the movie when they're interviewing all of the people, they're all getting snippets of a legend that don't mesh together.
Yeah.
Which I really like. It does lend authenticity to it because nobody can get their story straight, which is exactly what a legend is. It's telephone game, right? It's I'm going to do this, and I say, oh no, but it turned into this. It was 3 dead kids. Oh no, it was 3 dead people. No, it's 7 dead kids. But what I think is genius, at least genius. No, nothing is genius about this movie. What I think is really interesting. Genius is Kubrick. This is not genius. What's clever about the movie is these little details they have at the beginning, you see again at the end. And while the time in between the beginning and the end, it seems like other stuff is going on. Nobody mentioned stick people. Nobody mentioned piles of rocks. Nobody mentioned, their tent getting harassed. Like nobody mentioned any of that stuff. But it's interesting to see these little nuggets kind of some of the nuggets are true, but they don't fit in the legend as was described, which gives it a neat bit of authenticity. We're finding out as the campers are finding out, which again is uncomfortable. I don't know. What do you guys think? Am I way off base or?
No, I liked that a lot. And then how some of that stuff did come back. So I think there's a guy that they interviewed who was talking about the man who murdered the children, and then way later you get to see some things in the final location that kind of imply that. Mm-hmm. But then there was one that I wrote down, and I can't remember who said it, but they were describing the Blair Witch, and they're like long black hair everywhere, and I'm like, Japanese horror ghost? Huh? Is that going to come back later? And then it never did. Yep. Or maybe that was something that they had thought they were going to do, and maybe due to budget constraints or effects constraints, they just couldn't do it. But I agree. I liked the distorted different myths going around and then trying to figure out which of these is a red herring, either on purpose or completely accidentally. Right. And then what comes back later. And things like that. I will say that Heather, the documentarian, the woman whose idea is all of this, it's kind of interesting that she herself never offers up anything about the myth. It's all getting it from people, at least not that I remember. Yep. I never recall her saying she knows some things, but she never gives her own interpretation on what to expect. We're going to go in there and see what we can find.
Yeah, well, they're going in to find a cemetery that may or may not exist.
Yeah, I don't think that cemetery really does exist.
And guys, not for nothing, but I mean, back in the days of maps, paper maps, I don't know that these 3 bozos could read a terrain map and actually get through the forest. Like, that is some Scooby-Doo bullshit right there. You get a paper map to get down a street and take a left at the corner and all that, but oh no, when we get to this elevation, they're not surveyors. What map are they watching? And if they don't even know, it doesn't matter if you have a map if you can't follow the sun. And that's the other bit about this. And I was hoping that it would get supernatural, but it never did. Guys, if the sun's up, they deserve everything they get, because if you don't have the common sense to know where the sun is, and just put if the sun was on your right side when you walked away from the car, put the sun on your left side going back to the car. But it's obviously they're clueless. They're not campers. They're just kids with backpacks. There's a big difference.
They did have a compass.
They had a compass.
My headcanon is they wandered into a pocket dimension effectively.
But
that they kept wandering, and then that's why nothing made sense.
See, that's what I was.
There's something that is beyond their control. Like for instance, you drive you're driving out of town and you end up at the same house in another horror film, like type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? I took a left and I still ended up on Elm Street, or whatever it may be. I was wondering if they were being screwed with, and they were never ever leaving, no matter what.
I think they were never ever leaving, no matter what. But I think it's because it's what happens when you panic. And it's what happens when you're dealing with a situation that you're not ready for. I think that they actually legit kept walking around.
Right, but then on our same note, how did Josh get sucked out of the tent without them knowing about it? Like, you know what I mean? Like so yes, we're not seeing supernatural.
Valid, okay.
But
maybe he was hoarding cigarettes and didn't want them to know.
In fact, I think he was the tallest of the three people, right? So, like, I'm saying that body gets sucked out of the tent somehow. You're not going to not notice that.
I think there are supernatural forces. You're right. I think there are supernatural forces at play. I just don't think it's. In my brain, I want to mix their own human frailties with the supernatural element. I think they're clueless. And they can't jive, because if the forests were working against them, then no matter which way they turn, the sun would always be on the same side. You know what I mean? I don't know if anybody see In the Tall Grass on Netflix. No, you should watch it. It's a whole movie about people lost in tall grass.
Sounds fun.
There's a lot of this, Mom, Dad. There's a lot of that, but there's like some multi-dimensional shit in there as well. It's a Stephen King thing. But the moon was always adjusting itself, so they had to be lost.
That's interesting.
Which is really frightening, because one guy's like, just put the moon in our back, and it kept moving around. So they were in an alternate dimension.
This will come up later, but I do agree with like mix of their own humanity, and then supernatural, because something was making them just stop and sit and not do anything. Because as it got later into the movie, they're like, "Why are we sitting here? Why are we sitting here?" Like, I get that you're all very paranoid and freaking out, but like, you guys stop and sit and do nothing for quite some time. Right. So is that also some of the supernatural force just like sucking out the willpower?
Yes, they're defeated. Like that one person is defeated. Whoever that is, just chilling over there, like
Mike.
Yeah, or
poor Mike.
Or even like Josh when he was sitting there, like, why was my stuff there? Like he just, I just think, besides the fact that they kept getting lost, so on top of that, all this other crap is happening, and it's like it's getting smaller and smaller around them, like to the point where it's like, like each one has their turn of, I can't do it. I can't go on. That type of thing. By the way, I gotta say, even though I know it's fake, I know what it is. They do such a good job, like, because they're improvising. These people are pretty much, they have like a gist of what they're supposed to be doing, but this shit that they're talking to each other is all improv, and I buy in, even though yes, I know it's fake, but their emotions hook me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I really believe that they're going through this. Like, even though yes, I know it's not, they sell it very, very well.
I have a note that says these guys are such real people. And that's like early. It does feel real, even though, obviously at this point, definitely know it's not. This is all staged and whatnot, but they do a great job ad-libbing what they're going to do, and their reactions just kind of bleed well right into each other. And you buy that these are two people who kind of know each other, a third person who just joined the group, and they don't really know how they fit in, and then the personalities clashing at first, on minor things, and then as it just gets worse and worse, seeing like really like this is bad.
Right, and I think it also illustrates the as we look into their characters more, their flaws come out. Just like when the tall guy Josh is, they keep yelling at Heather to stop filming, which obviously if she did, there wouldn't be a movie. But on the other side of it, it gets into her character like, no, the movie's over. We just have to get out of here. Like, forget about doing, which obviously wouldn't have a movie. But when Josh has the camera and she's looking at her like, what's your here's your motivation. You know, you fucked us and blah, 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 blah. That is not a good thing to do in that moment. What's going to come of that conversation? All you're doing is make another human being feel terrible. Does that person deserve it? Maybe, but what's it going to do?
I think he's
Nothing.
Just so pissed.
It's that person, that, even if you're I know, but that's what humans do, but it absolutely is unconstructive. And we all recognize that, but he won't stop, which is interesting. And I want to bring up a point. This goes kind of circles around to Jillian again. We're kind of going to backtrack. But I felt when I was watching this movie, when I didn't see it, that I didn't realize the first time, and see if you agree with me on this, this movie is the whatever number, the stages of grief, right? It's denial, it's anger, it's bargaining, and then you come to terms with it, and then you accept it, and that's why in the final scenes, when it's just the two of them and Josh is gone, they know they're dead. They're dead. They're never getting out of there. We are not going to leave this forest, which makes it so heart-wrenching when they have to make camp, knowing this is probably the last camp, but you still have to make camp. You still have to do those banalities of life, because it's bedtime. We have to get the tent up, even though we're probably one of us is going to go missing in the morning. It's that acceptance. Let's just wait for it. So it doesn't fit in snugly with that theory, but I believe it kind of mimics those stages of grief, and that's why Jay, like you said, they're just accepting it, like why they have my bag, why I can't, you know what I mean? It's just, what's the point?
I like
what's the point of yelling anymore?
Sort of become close at how Mike and Heather become sort of like instead of, for the last however they've been enemies, and it's like at this point it's like just stay with me, stay up, don't go to sleep, before they dart off running for the voice that they hear. It takes you through all those emotions, all those different things. When Mike admits to kicking the map.
Kicking the map.
Right, well, he says, I kicked it into the river.
Who only takes one map into the woods?
Right.
I know,
but
that you can't read. But
it's like I side with both sides at the same time. I'm with Mike because I get it. She's not doing shit with this map. Nothing's happening. Yeah. You're not following, and nothing's working. So he's saying, screw this. This is a big waste. But at the same time, I feel like with her and Josh, it's like this security blanket. So I could see how pissed they are. So I get it's like I'm able to follow on both sides. It's like, yeah, dude, I get it. Well, you kicked it. It's like, but I see why they're so pissed. They pulled it off, right in those scenes.
So
what's
a question that I have? We're going to move it around.
We do this. It's all out of order.
With regards to them, so they get into the woods. They meet two guys. I think they're fishing. They get a little bit more, and I think he even tells them dudes, just don't do this. And they're like, no, we're gonna do it anyway. It's gonna be fun. And the first night of camp is great, and then that's the next day is when things start to go wrong. Does Heather actually get them lost, or do you think she had an idea of where she was going, and then the forces of nature, supernatural or otherwise, came into play and sucked them into wherever they got sucked into? Or no, she just got them lost?
I think there's a lot of hubris. I think Heather always feels as though she's large and in charge, even when she's not, and she assumes the role of leader, though no one appointed her, and so therefore we're going to make these choices, and these are the right choices, even though you're not sure they're the right choices. So I think she gets them lost. And then after that, whatever makes them loster and loster just spirals out of control. So I think she's the linchpin, because if you knew where you were going, you'd be in and out. You would have been in and out.
And also, if you would have been able to acknowledge, yes, I know I said we were only 2 miles away 2 hours ago. And, well, now we're only 3 miles away. See you in 3.
Right.
We'll be there in 5 hours.
Awesome.
Ever been hiking and someone says we only have 2 hours to go? Oh my God, that is a soul crushing
I have,
number.
but they didn't mention it was going to be vertical. It's like, oh yeah, it's not far. No. It's just it's another 2 miles. It's going to be great, nice and easy. Failed to mention it was vertical up. It's just like, oh my god, nice. What is this? Oh, but the going back's going to be great.
Oh no, it's not. No, that's terrible. Down is terrible. The quads are like on fire. That's crazy pants. No, don't camp, guys. Don't camp. Yeah. Stay out of New Hampshire. Honestly, just don't camp.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. Just go to a restaurant, have a hamburger.
I was thinking this: if they didn't ask permission to have their car there, there's a good chance that car wasn't there when they got back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just kind of parked it on the side of the
you know
road.
What I mean? Cops don't tend to like that.
No, not.
I guess that would explain why another reason why no one could have come looking for them is that maybe it did get towed away. And I mean, clearly some people knew. Josh's girlfriend knew that he was missing. The people who they work for clearly were going to expect it. Whoever they rented the equipment was going to expect it. But I could see that if the car was removed because it got towed or taken, that kind of being the beginning of like why no one was out there looking for them. Originally, maybe the cops thought it was just some meddling kids.
But on the other
woods.
side of it, let's talk about not making clear decisions. If you're lost, you stay put. How many times have you been told as a kid, if you get lost, don't wander. Stay put and wait and do the best you can waiting. You're in a comfortable and safe spot. Find a safe spot and stay there. Don't just wander around. So that's the hubris of the situation. But they have a map, please. Yeah.
No. However, there's eventually this points where they don't feel safe.
Yeah, you're right.
Messed with.
Yeah, you're right. No, okay, valid point.
Like we have
at the beginning at least.
What I like too about this, I still to this day, even though like I see it coming, so it's not like it's not as, it's like watching a joke that you've already seen. It's like but I'm saying originally what I think is a great part. Of course, they didn't have any money, so they weren't going to show you something. But what is the most scary part of Jaws?
Oh, the barrels.
Besides the barrels.
Not seeing the shark.
Thank you. Exactly.
Not seeing the shark, it's the music cues
of holy shit.
Yeah.
Here it comes. And that's what this movie captures.
Yeah.
Like you just don't know where it is. It's pitch black out there. Every time, the day it's October. October, it's heading towards Halloween because they show the Halloween decorations. Days not that long, so it's like you only have a certain amount of time before the fucking moon comes out again.
Or not the moon. Could be pitch black.
Whatever. Yeah. Right. Regardless, those moments are just numbered. So it's like there's not a lot of security there. Day you feel okay, but that sun's is going down again. So like every time it's nighttime, you don't know if that thing's coming. And they even said, let's not light a fire tonight. Maybe that's what's there's all these theories on why they're getting messed with.
The hillbillies in the woods, which made me chuckle because I'm like, because when I was doing that hiking trip, going towards the Colorado River State Park that me and my friend stayed in, it was like a 5-mile dirt road that we had to get onto to get to the park. And at one point, a pickup truck just kind of appeared behind us out of nowhere. And I had been joking about the Texan hillbilly cannibals that were going to come kill us, and what would we do and who would survive first? Because this is the humor that I have. And then the car disappeared, and it turned out they were park rangers. But one of the guys makes the joke about I think it's just hillbillies in the woods, and I'm like, they believe it too.
Demonic hillbillies in the woods. Yes.
Demonic hillbillies. We skipped over it, or we haven't gotten there maybe. But on the second day when they get to Coffin Rock, and she does the dramatic reading in the cave. I wonder if that might have been how things start to go wrong. Because, you never bring a book of dark passages and then stand at the site of a massacre and read aloud from it. Yep. It's 101. Don't do that. Similar to, if somebody tells you don't bother the spirits with the Ouija board, don't pull out the Ouija board and be like, I'm going to give them a ring and see who answers. Well, so there's, I think, I'll go for it.
No, I was going to say, I like how, I think it's funny how she shifted. From documentary Heather,
yes,
to the one that shuts the book and says, "I'm all set." That was pretty good. She was like, and then That's what
Right.
happened. I coughed
Right.
and rock.
Well, let's think about it.
Okay, that's enough.
She's going from.
was
She's
just
going.
kinda cool.
This movie goes from goofy legend horror to actual horror. This movie goes from ghost story,
Yeah.
which are scary, but you take it. I mean, they have a shot in a graveyard. What the hell is that about? Like, why do you need a shot? You could have done that shot anywhere, but they do a shot in a graveyard because they're not really they're taking it seriously, but only to a certain level. They're trying to be super dramatic about it, but you don't even know the horrors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't know scary. Like, you think you know scary. Scary
Yeah.
is not a paper ghost taped to a double wide. It's this other stuff, right? So, scary is a guys, if you gotta tell you, if you come across a house in the middle of the woods, what the fuck? Like, what happened to that house? Why is that house there? Like, that to me, like, that's the stuff that creeps me out. If I were just walking through the woods and suddenly came across a house, like, I guess you have to give credit for their bravery. The fact that they heard Josh and ran in, I guess I would too, if you're going to, save your friend. But at the beginning of the story, if they went into the woods and they just saw this house, I don't think Mike would be around much longer. He'd be like, "I'll see you at the car." Like, he'd have his Shaggy moment.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, zoinks, and like go the other way. Like, nobody said anything about a weird house. No, what's this house? I don't understand this.
That old guy did. The one who
I know.
talked
I'm
about
just
the
saying,
murdered
like,
children.
no one said anything about this, But at that point, what have they got to lose? Let's look at it that way, right? What have they got to lose? They go.
Yeah, and with regards to her dramatic reading, you were saying she kind of switches between like documentarian Heather and drama Heather, and I think in that moment after she's finished reading, she's like, maybe that wasn't such like that felt cool and good, but at the same time it didn't feel so good. And then she immediately switches over. I don't like the way I looked or how it felt to do that. I took other footage, so maybe I'll just put that over me so I don't have to, it doesn't have to. And it's like, okay, you've gone back to, I'm going to make this art, basically. I mean, anything that somebody creates is art in one way or another. So for her, it's all about the artwork, and what takes better precedence than that. Screw getting people lost. It's all about the art.
I will say, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place, but there's nothing to give you any emotional cues. Like, you just have to watch it. And then whatever you think is going to happen, like, there are no cues. There's no music. There's no stings. There's no Halloween theme. There's no Jaws theme. It's just footage. Which, again, as you're watching it, if it's supposed to be a found footage film, why is it edited? I'm just saying, like, but did somebody have, like, a slice thing and a tape?
Whoever found it was like, "Here, let's make this. It's a memorial, basically.
Whoa, it's a memorial.
Let's put it all
snuff
together.
film. Hello, come on now. Let's make this good. I don't know this is what she's going for. Let's keep that part where everybody dies at the end. I'll ask one question of you, because I think we hit a lot of points. But what for you is the I'm trying to think of the word. Give me a second. Is the holy shit moment where it's like, oh, they're actually doomed. Like, they're not. Like, if it were you, what's the worst thing? What makes when you're watching it, what makes your stomach drop the most? Like, oh, this is not going to end well. Because there's a few of them. What do you think? Yeah. Jill, tell me.
Me?
Yeah, let's start with you.
So I guess I'll reveal something I was going to save at the end. I didn't actually find this film to be scary.
Sure.
I found it to be tense. So there was never the like stomach drop, like, oh my God, this is it. But the second night, the third night, Josh is still with them. It's before their stuff gets slimed. So I think it's the second night where they're hearing the things in the woods, and I was watching with subtitles on just so I could catch everything. And one of the captions for that was like children laughing. Oh. And I'm like,
yeah,
they're probably fucked. Like they're not getting out of this. All I know about this movie is the famous shot of her close up of the face and the corner. That's really the only parts I knew. But I'm like, I I don't think they're
All right.
they're getting out of this. This seems
All
like
right.
the beginning of the end. So I think that's, like I said, I think it's the second night. It's the time that they run out of the tent and they're all together. And Heather, I think she's running barefoot. She says, like, I don't have my shoes. It's so cold. And it's also the moment where she's running and she says, "Oh my God, what's that?" But the camera doesn't show anything. And then they all kind of like hunker down somewhere and they're like, "Okay, let's go back to camp now that the sun's up."
Cool.
Which
So
actually
that to me is like the oh shit.
yeah. Well, I think that that's when the slime was the next morning. Yeah, like when they went back.
Oh, okay, that is when it gets slimed.
And I would say probably for me, I mean, there's a combo of him finding his stuff and then also after he's gone when they find that weird bundle and his teeth are in it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, his, first off, I heard him screaming last night
Yep.
in pain. Was his teeth being extracted in the woods?
Was
a
that what
tooth.
it was? A tooth?
It was like
I couldn't figure out. It's a tooth. Okay, I thought it was also it could be a finger as well. The fact that she touched it.
Well, you got to
was
make
just-
sure, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, don't,
Yeah.
verify.
Well, it was his shirt.
Yeah.
Like, that was
Yes.
wrapped up,
Wrapped around it with like
See,
the
that's,
necklace.
That's the thing I appreciate on Jay and I. You and I are on the same page on this because up to that point, it could be just people mess with them. It could be hillbillies. It could be some dummy in the woods, just like shaking their tent when they're trying to sleep. It could just be somebody, rednecks harassing the white college kids. You're not sure, even though the whole point is a witch legend. But when you see your friend disappears, so it could be kidnapped. All right, that's a problem. Kidnapping is a problem. But then when the next day, whatever took Josh is now taunting you, and I like the fact that the film ties the bundle with his flannel, because if you're not paying attention, like, oh, what's with the flannel? And it takes a couple of seconds to go, oh, that's his shirt. Oh, those are his teeth. And now like, they're taunting these people. They're trying to not only murder them, but scare them as well and make them as uneasy as possible. We have not even a note, not even a finger, right? Just sticks for whatever reason, and the flannel and a couple of teeth. So that's like, and he's still alive, right? So it's not like they left his head. Like for Friday the
as far as we
13th, it would
know.
just be the person's head by the tent. But because it's his teeth, he's still out there, and he's in pain, and there's nothing we can do about it. And as much as we hated each other, like, he doesn't deserve that either. And they all have their own kind of inner guilt about putting Josh in that situation, because he didn't ask for nobody asked for any of this.
and I don't believe they hate each other. I think it's
Well,
just that
that's a
those
strong
raw
word.
emotions
You're
at
right.
those moments.
No,
I think Mike might genuinely hate.
Yeah.
I mean, until the end, I think
Yeah.
Mike genuinely hated Heather.
Yeah, but I
until
think
it was very clear that this
did
is
the
it.
shift right towards the end.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
the shift happened because, like, when he's like, I found the cigarettes at the bottom of the bag.
Oh, yeah, and
Like, and he's like rocking back and forth. Dude, that sold it though. Like,
Yeah.
it was just like he's like a little child at that point.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think we're gonna be okay though. I think because as long as we got cigarettes.
I know, right?
as long as we have cigarettes.
Yeah. So
A note that I wrote was, does Heather tell Mike that she found the tooth
No.
or teeth? Because we never see her say anything about it. We just know that she's there. He's like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just washing
Yep.
my hands, just washing
Yep.
them away." And I'm like, "Oh, you don't tell that poor
Nope.
sad
no,
boy."
I don't think she did. She spared him that.
Is that the right decision? That's a good question. Is
Of
that the
course
right
she did.
decision in that instance?
No, I don't think it matters.
I mean, so I think they couldn't. I think there's a couple of things that could have happened, but some of them would have changed the ending effectively. So either she tells him and then they still go through the ending, or she tells him and then they have a discussion about, okay, he's lost. It's over for him. And then when you hear him shouting later, they could have been like, "No, it's not him. It's not him. We know it's not him. Wait, don't go. Come back." And then she maybe follows him into the house being like, "Mike, we know. We talked about this.
Right.
Don't."
All right.
Well, the thing
Cool
is,
enough.
though, he could have had his teeth ripped out, and he's still screaming for help the next day. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he still could be alive.
It's not like they took the tongue.
It's not like they took the tongue.
Good Lord. All right, listen. If I find a tongue wrapped up in sticks, you know what? I'm just going to hope and pray you're dead because you're living without a tongue, man.
Wow.
No.
No. But before we hit the, go to final judgment, I do want to, we have to bring up the close-up shot.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's with like, and I know she gets crap for that, and it's like, understandably, because we can basically see inside their nose and stuff like that.
Yep.
But I do want to say, if you're that screwed, meaning like if you feel that you have zero hope and you're just making a little video and you're having a little light, you're not caring about how's my face. How
many boogers are coming out of my nose?
You don't care because you have nothing else. You know, like, so I get that. So that's why it's like, yeah, it's okay. That works because, it's not out to be pretty for somebody. Right.
Yeah.
Well,
so
it's,
I thought
it's
go ahead.
No, it is that last stage of grief. I'm probably not going to make it out. It's seeking forgiveness, there's no penance I can make. There's nothing I can do about this. I just hope everybody forgives me. I can't make it right, which is a tough thing to accept, that it's your fault and you can't make it right. It's gone past that point, and it's a difficult moment. And I think at the time, while it's been parodied, I think Saturday Night Live had a parody of that scene, and the parody was that it's been parodied so many times. You know what I mean? Like, everybody had that because it was so iconic, and it is obviously that and Josh in the corner or Mike in the corner. I forget who it is. Mike. Like, those are.
It's a Josh. It's Mike.
I forget. Yeah.
Yeah, he went down the stairs.
I think it's Mike.
Yeah. It's so iconic that, like, how do you not do it? It's I think we're going to need a bigger boat. I mean, it's just, that's the gravitas that moment has, because we hadn't seen anything like that in horror. Like, that's a new idea. So I don't know.
That, to me, so one of my walking after I finished the whole film, I'd been taking notes and I kind of wrote down a couple thoughts. I felt that was the beginning of the best parts of the entire movie for me. Was the finally getting to the famous scene, because that's what one of the few images of this movie I knew was the close-up, not knowing exactly what's happening there. But there it is. In a weird way, it's similar to when I finally saw A Christmas Story for the first time. The only thing I knew about The Christmas Story was that he's trying to get to Santa to ask about that gun. And the image I'd always seen is him on the slide. Yep. And I thought that was the whole movie, was him trying to get to that point. And then when I finally watched it, I'm like, oh, Santa's only in this for like 10 minutes. But the apology on the camera, it really brings her back around to being likable for me, being able to take stock and recognize, yes, this is my fault. There's nothing I can do to change that. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to Josh's parents, my parents, Mike's parents. If anybody finds us, learn from this or take what have you. But it really made me feel bad. Because up until a certain point in that film, I did not feel any, nah. You brought this upon yourself. I think the person who I felt the most bad for was Mike, because he genuinely, that's not what he signed up for. He was signed up to be the sound guy, and then no one was listening to him. And then Josh, and then finally, after that monologue with Heather and the camera, I felt bad for her. I'm like, you're going to die, and I'm going to be sad that you died.
Well, the ultimate,
all right.
Before we do that, one last thing. I think her line, which, if I have it right, it's just like the ultimate of defeat when she says, we're cold, hungry, and hunted. And I was like, damn, that sucks. That sucks. Yep. Because, like they nailed discomfort in this. Nailed it. And because they actually made the actors uncomfortable. And they were like, okay, we're going to... They weren't around them all the time. Like, they were, like, sending them out there for, like, hours, like, days and stuff like that. And they've like got small interactions.
So do we want to talk about the final scene of the movie, the final set piece?
Where he's in the corner?
If you will, the house. When they were getting up to that point, so they hear Josh in the night, they find this house that they had not seen before, even though they had already identified that they had been going in a circle. And then they go in and they run up to the attic, and then Mike hears him down in the basement.
Always a good idea.
I found that to be, this was probably the closest I got to being scared.
Okay.
Because I think I knew that, well, the corner scene hadn't happened, and there's 7 minutes left in this movie, so it's gonna happen soon. But I found that to be very disorienting, which I'm sure is what they wanted.
Yep.
That was like true shaky cam in all of its wonderful masterwork right there.
Yep.
And the way the sound is very strange.
Oh, yeah.
Because at some points I couldn't tell, because we knew there's 2 cameras. There's the black and white one and then the color one. And I think Mike's holding the color one. And at first I couldn't figure out who was holding the black and white one because Heather's voice is so far away. But she's holding it. So you hear her screaming for Mike or, you know, asking him to stop. But it doesn't actually sound like she's holding the camera. She sounds like she's in like 2 other rooms away from where it's actually happening. And then we get down to the basement and you get that moment of the guy in the corner. And I should have taken a screenshot of it, but I wasn't sure if his feet were hovering or if they were on the ground.
Yeah, I think they're on the ground.
They're on the ground.
I think they're on the ground.
But like, she just sounds so not there, but someone clearly is there holding the camera. And then the sound and the camera drops.
I'm wondering when she was using the black and white, Mike is there for a reason as the sound guy. So I wonder if he has a separate mic that's sort of external. So the sound you might have only been picking up on is the color camera. So that's why maybe she sounded so far away, because there was no mic plugged into her camera.
Oh, that's a really good point. And I would imagine that's probably right. And that just makes the scene all the more rich.
It's true.
For that feeling.
And the sound design does give that this is not a movie.
I'm so frustrated,
right? Like,
even though I know the ending and all that stuff. But like that makes me frustrated that he ran ahead. Like, it's like, dude, why are you leaving her far? Like, at least she's another body, another person to fight. You know what I mean? Like, now you go down, you're alone, and that's when when it's too late. He's standing in the corner, like, because the legend, I guess, was like he made the kids, the killer at the beginning made the kid face the corner, so while he was killing another one, type of thing. So just eerie, and then they just end with like her getting clobbered or something. You just see this camera just like sort of fall. It's pretty cool, like in that sense. But
it's
all right, here we go. I'm going to hit the final judgment theme here.
It's time now for final judgment. Are you ready to rubber stamp this bitch? Here's the final judgment.
All right, so Jillian, did you want to go first and talk about how well it holds up?
I don't know, because I'm worried that the fact that I'm seeing it in 2021 is gonna change.
Nope.
I don't have the nostalgia goggles.
You know what?
It doesn't matter.
Honest with you.
Overall,
I'm excited that you hadn't seen it, because because like that makes it. An absolute, like, here's somebody who wasn't seeing it while things were happening. So have at it. No one's wrong.
So that's true. Yeah. I would say that I'm really envious that I was not old enough to really take in all of the marketing like I remember it. But it must have been something to see all of the marketing campaigns around this film, and then going into it knowing in the back of your mind, yes, this isn't real, but then being in the theater and seeing it. So with regards to final impressions, I would say that the biggest regret I have is not seeing this in a theater, even though it would have been in present day. I think this film it would be an amazing theater experience, especially if you're with people who have never seen it before. Being engulfed in darkness in a theater, and then the sound and the seeing it all, I think that's what would ratchet this up to an actual like horror movie. I think this movie holds up really well. I think visually, I think if you're into filmmaking, this is a must-see, because it's also really inspiring. They made this movie for under 100,000, let's say that. And look how effective it is. Is it scary? I don't know. Maybe I'm just too exposed to horror films. Tense is what I would call this. I would not go into this movie thinking it's the scariest movie you'll ever see in your lifetime. Right. But it's worth seeing, especially if you're a cinephile, especially if you're a horror fan, or if you are thinking, how do I make movies? I don't really know how to do this. I don't have any money. And then you can go watch that and be like, wow, they made that for almost nothing with some heavy ass equipment. At least I have a nice lightweight smartphone with a better camera than that camera.
Right.
So yeah, I think it holds up in the sense that it's still worth seeing. I don't know if it holds up as an actual true horror movie.
Awesome.
All right. I can dig it.
Sure.
Jay, I'll go if you don't mind, because I'm kind of on the fence a little bit. I think first of all, I like to address the shaky cam. It was the first shaky cam movie, really. As I said earlier, I remember it affecting me in the theater, and I was expecting to feel that again when I watched it again. But I'm like, no, it's just shaky cam. Like, it didn't make me. Some people are complaining it made them nauseous. The only movie that ever made me nauseous from shaky cam is Cloverfield. Cloverfield actually made me sick to my stomach. All the other shaky cam movies haven't bothered me. And this one is, of all the shaky cam movies, this is probably not as bad. I think they've gotten worse in terms of constantly moving around. Let's talk about the technology. It's a set piece, right? It's 1999. So it doesn't matter. It's obviously, the date comes up at the beginning. So even if you are seeing this for the first time, you know there was a time in the past where there were no smartphones and there was no cell phones, and you're using paper maps, and you couldn't find people, you couldn't communicate. And so that sets it up. I think that makes it hold up better, because what if you couldn't do any of those things? So I think that holds up for that reason. Even though it was already terrifying in 1999 for that reason, it's even worse now because we're so dependent on our phone just to find out where the nearest Dunkin' Donuts is, as opposed to being saved. You know what I mean? So I think my only thing, and I think this is the reason I didn't watch it a lot. It obviously is I can't think of the word. A filmmaker's delight, from the sound design, from the budget, from just the guerrilla-ness of it, from the low budgetness, but able to get all of that out of the actors. The way that they did it is obviously stupendous. I think my only issue with it was I just don't remember it dragging like it did at times. Like, I remember it being more exciting, and it's only an hour and 20 minutes. And even though it is a slow burn, I don't remember it dragging like that. Now, I don't need to be constantly entertained in a movie. I don't mind some downtime. Like, I don't always need explosions and flashy lights. However, there are points where I'm like, okay, let's go on with it. But then I will counter with that by saying, I don't know what you cut. It's only an hour and 20, and every scene is important, but it dragged. So I think it holds up if you're a film student, if you're a movie person, but I don't think it holds up. Everybody loved this movie in 99, or a large portion did. I don't think that fraction is as large. I think it's just filmmaking students and people like us appreciate it, whereas the masses wouldn't appreciate it because it's not new anymore, right? It was a new thing then, this shaky cam found footage deal, and now it's not. So it's just like, well, it's another shaky cam movie. Who cares? Whereas you and I and Jay recognize how good it is from a filmmaking standpoint. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it doesn't hold up for that reason. Even though, so I got to commit. Yeah, I'm going to say no.
I had the feeling there was tones you were using throughout the episode. I was like, yeah, I got a no coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it. The thing is, I like the movie. Like, I do like the movie. I'm not going to watch it again anytime soon, but I do like it, and I recommend it if you're into filmmaking. I just don't know I'd recommend it to everybody. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but you would still recommend it, which I think is an important takeaway. Is that, you know, you're not going to say not to see it, but if you've seen it once, you don't necessarily need to come back to it unless maybe you're sitting with someone who had never seen it before and you want to be there for that person. Right. Maybe because they're afraid of horror films, but also because you want to almost live through their experience of seeing it again, or of them seeing it for the first time.
Yep. Agreed.
I saw a movie years ago that was a found footage movie called Grave Encounters, where they spent the night in a hospital, like a mental hospital type of thing, right? And here's the worst part. It was like a takeoff on that. Remember that Paranormal State show that you hated?
Oh
Right.
God, it was
Okay.
terrible. Yeah.
So it was like that. Like,
too bad too, because they shot it at Penn State. But
That's where my dad's alma mater.
that's
Look at
my
that.
alma mater. So all right,
So it was something like that.
we are.
Penn State.
There was something
Sorry.
like that where they basically are fakes in a way, and then they come across something real. But like, and I was like, oh God, the acting sucks in this. God, you're killing me. And then all these other people were like, this movie's awesome. And I was like, I gotta go watch Blair Witch because I felt so much better with that. Like, like I had to hurry up and like redeem like a found footage movie. Like, so like I watched that again. Like,
Save the
give it
genre.
back to me, like the way it's supposed to be. This other one, by the way, you think shaky cam? This other one called Quarantine. I had to do this.
Oh, I saw Quarantine. Yeah.
Is that the one that came out in quarantine?
No, came out.
No.
Because there was. Oh, because there is one. No, that's a different one where it's like it's not COVID, but it's obviously COVID.
It had the actress.
No, this
who
was a while
Dexter's
ago.
sister in the movie, the TV show Dexter.
Oh, I think I know which. I
She was
remember
in a
which one
fire
you're talking
station,
about.
and
Yeah, they
basically
shut down
had
the-
to shut it down, lock it down, and they're all stuck inside. So much running, so much running. I literally
Yeah.
had to do this because it wasn't
Yep.
making me nauseous, but my eyes were really, really upset. Like, I was like, this hurts. It's starting to really affect like the sensation in my eyes. This is brutal. I was like, this
Yep.
is not fun. So they weren't running a lot in this movie. It was really a couple of moments, like the end and the time where they're running through
Yep.
the woods. Really, other than that, just walking around. So it wasn't that bad. Like I said throughout most of the film, I dug how their emotions really were brought out. Like whatever they did, I believed it. Like I said, even though I know it's fake, but they sold it. They each one of them had it, and it's too bad. I wonder if they didn't have as much of careers because you can't outlive the fact that you were in something so iconic. Like, some kids can't grow up past their sitcom status, because they were so iconic back then. Things like that. Like, you're that one thing. I mean, because I don't know. I guess Heather did a couple of stuff with Steven Spielberg. He had a TV show.
Oh.
I don't know. I can't think of the name of it. But
She's a good actress.
Yeah, no.
She's a good actor.
Yeah, I think Josh does a lot of stuff behind the camera now. I think Mike's the one who's completely out of Hollywood completely. Right. But I recall reading that Josh does more behind the scene things. So, like, good for him.
So
He still needs
as far as their the little local stuff that they were selling at the beginning, they did a test screening without that, and people were confused, especially by the ending. So they added the people explaining the corner, people facing the corner. So that got added. I thought that was kind of cool,
All right.
like that. Because if it weren't for that, we would all be, what the fuck was that? He's in the corner. Like, why is he standing in the corner?
Yeah. Run, stupid!
You know what I mean?
Why are you just sitting there?
And so, along the lines, I'm going to say yes. Along the lines of what we're all discussing here, I think for the right people, it's a yes. There's probably, I wouldn't say for the masses. The masses were for when the hype train was in town, like when everybody's like, it could be real, it might be real, that type of thing. I think that's when it was working. So I think yes, but it's got to be, if you're someone who's a casual movie guy or girl, don't bother. You're gonna hate it most likely. It's like, but there's a lot to appreciate with this. And by the way, it's not the first found footage movie, but it's really the first massive found footage movie.
the one to do it
I
well.
guess Cannibal Holocaust was the first, but like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, well.
Like, I'm not gonna watch that. No,
I've never
no
seen it,
thanks.
but I know
you
of
don't
it.
want to. Don't worry about it.
That guy's not getting
they're
a
all
dime
set.
out of me.
Don't worry about it. No, that's okay.
I'll add that if for those who might think the Blair Witch is too much for them, but want that experience of a found footage film with a ghost and whatnot, just watch Supernatural season 3 episode 13,
Wow.
Ghost Facers,
All right.
because that it's Sam and Dean, the Supernatural brothers, the Winchesters. They stumble upon a film crew in a haunted house, and it's mostly done through camera, and there's a lot of shaky cam, but it's equally hilarious, but also that one's actually a little scary.
All right.
There's some pretty cool effects, and now my cat might poke her head in.
That's cool. Hey,
Sophie.
That's fairly typical cat
That's
behavior.
going to be on YouTube.
She actually watched the movie with me.
Yeah.
Aww. Her face, at least. Her ear. But I would say that if you're curious about whether or not the Blair Witch is for you... And,
there we go. Yeah.
if you're curious to know if the Blair Witch is for you, and maybe you're still in the early phases of discovering horror as a genre...
Yep.
I think that episode of Supernatural is a really easy entry point to that. And if you've never really watched a shaky cam film and you're not sure how you're going to react.
Yeah.
Because if you've never done shaky cam before, I don't know if the Blair Witch would be the best thing for your first experience. I have no problem with shaky camera, but I do have friends who have that issue and like they can't watch Cloverfield at all for that same reason.
There's so much running. Jay, there's so much running in Cloverfield.
I wasn't
you did? Okay,
as quarantine. Quarantine fucked me up. I was like,
oh God, so much running.
Like, stop, guys! It's all the dark,
but
light and dark. Boom, boom, boom.
Jillian, let's say this though: even if you're a casual, and this is for everybody too, if you're a casual fan, you're only investing an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, so if you can get it for free, I know. So if you can get it for free, or if it's on, watch it. It's only an hour and 20 minutes long. You're not in it for 2 hours, or the James Bond movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes. The new one.
Thank God this movie was not
so
over.
long.
If this movie was an hour and 45 minutes, it would have been 25 minutes too long, and I would have walked out of it feeling way less positive about how I feel about it.
So, cool.
All
right. I think that does it.
Right. Yeah.
Excellent.
Thanks for joining us. And if you want to once again plug your show.
Yeah. So my name is Jill, and I am part of the podcast Game for a Movie. We are available wherever you listen to your podcasts. So that includes Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And I am one of a couple friends who like to talk about movies, including bad ones. And we just sit around, drink some beer, talk about stuff. See what we liked, what we didn't like, and hate on our lead presenter, Mike, for not liking the show, Arthur.
Wait, the PBS show?
Yeah, he doesn't like Arthur, and he's going to hate that I brought this up.
It's terrible. Why would anybody want to watch Arthur? It's awful.
Because it was part of our childhood.
No, it's terrible. He's a namby-pamby little... everything's always right, and we got to be honest all the time. Get the hell out of here.
No, you're making him sound like Arnold from
What is Arthur, anyway? Is he a hedgehog?
He's an aardvark.
Stupid. All right, anyway. No, I don't know. I don't remember. I kind of watched like 1 or 2 episodes. My kids were small.
Yeah, it was a cultural touch point for me, at least, but I was also the right age.
Fair enough. All right.
So
cool. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. If you have anything you want to add or comment, filmcrickets8099@gmail.com. Don't forget the rate and review. What's that called again, Jay?
So if you leave us
the 5-star request. So I'll do it. So if you give a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. At the bottom of the review, let us know a movie that you'd like us to do, and we'll do our best to try to get to that film. Can't make any guarantees, but because hopefully we'll get a lot of people to do it. But we will do our best. It's certainly a way to kind of get our product rolling. So, Jay, we're done with horror movies.
We did 5.
Next time is
we did 5. Thank you so much for joining